Hey San Antonio, this is Derek with Rob's MetalWorks. We're here at Emo's in Austin with the legendary Clutch and Neil Fallon. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm very well, thank you.
All right, this is going to be the first time that a lot of people in San Antonio hear about Clutch, even though you've been around for a long, long time, got a big fan base. Mm-hmm. For those of us who don't know about Clutch, why don't you tell us a little bit about your history, where you came from, all that.
Okay. Well, we've been doing it for about 12 years. The guys in the band all went to high school together, and just kind of took it from there. And it's just the way the cards fell that everything worked out. And it's not a very exciting history. Just put out some records and do some tours, and have fun at it. Well, that's the most important thing for
Absolutely.
us. You don't really pay too much attention to what's going on, other than the music that we make. And I don't know, and just like the more people that have been exposed to it, the better. I mean, that's the way we look at it.
And talking about the music you make, Clutch is probably one of the most difficult to categorize rock bands out there. I mean, you've got everything from some metal, a lot of jazz influenced stuff, very groove oriented. How would you best describe Clutch?
Well, it's hard to say when you're involved with it, because it's like when someone asks you a question like, what kind of person are you? It's
yeah,
it's
right.
kind of hard to say. But I think anything you listen to is an influence, and we listen to just about everything under the sun. We first started listening to kind of like a lot of hardcore, but we also, when we were growing up, listened to Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin, and went on to stuff like Bad Brains and Cro-Mags. And then as we got a little bit older, started listening to the blues and jazz and old country and everything under the sun. And I think when we write, someone will play a riff and one of the other guys will say, that's a cool riff. Mm-hmm. Play it another 3 times, and then I'll try to put words on it. And that's pretty much the way we operate. We don't really approach a record or a song thinking it'll be a certain way. It just kind of comes from the heart.
Right. And over the years, Clutch's calling card has really been your live shows. Mm-hmm. Your live shows are absolutely legendary. Why is it that now, after 12 odd years, you finally decided to put out Live at the Googleplex, a new album?
Well, for the previous 12 years, we've been signed at one point or another to a record label, and major record labels are always very reluctant to put out live records unless you've sold gold and platinum records, right. And because live records are only purchased by a select audience.
Your hardcore fans.
Yeah. And so that kind of delayed it, and then when we realized that our next record, studio record that isn't going to be out until the beginning of next year, we thought it would be good to get something out, and we had just so happened to have recorded some shows while we were opening for System of a Down. Right. And when we were recording it, we didn't say, it wasn't with the intention of putting out a live record. We were just doing it for, shits and giggles. And then that was it, really. And then that's the story of it. I think we'd like to do another one. It was a learning experience for us.
Were you happy with the results of Live at the Googleplex?
Yeah, I think it's a completely honest representation. I mean, of course, everyone's their own biggest critic.
Right.
I can nitpick it to death, but it's a live recording, and I don't think a lot of people realize that most quote unquote live recordings aren't as live as they might think.
Right.
It's easy to overdub a lot of stuff. Once you start doing that, it's a slippery slope. So some songs we had to ask ourselves, like, maybe it's not the most technically perfect, but the performance is really good, or vice versa, and just kind of judge each song on those two merits.
And for those of you who don't have it yet, Live at the Googleplex is out right now on Megaforce Records. It is really, if you want to get to know what Clutch is really all about, live CD is definitely it. So check it out. And you mentioned opening for System of a Down. Mm-hmm. You've been on, you do a lot of diverse touring. When you tour as a headliner, you have a lot of like-minded music going on with your own tours, but you've been on tours with Slayer and System of a Down, Limp Bizkit, Marilyn Manson. How do you approach finding which tour is right for you, and how do you approach these audiences who are going to be hearing something completely different from what they're expecting?
Well, I mean, sometimes we're invited by the band itself. Sometimes it's a booking agent thing. And for us, when you're opening for another band, it doesn't make any sense to preach to the choir. Right. I mean, if that band's audience is the exact same audience that you have, you're not going to be exposed to any new ears. And at times it can be an uphill battle because you see that front row that all they're interested in is the band that's headlining. Yeah. And, you know, you can get the impression that no one likes you, but the fact of the matter is, you know, if there's 5,000 people in the audience and 100 of them like you, maybe that 100 people will come out to see the next time you do it. And you do that enough times, you know, for, 10 years, that's how you kind of establish yourself as a live touring band through word of mouth. Right. Because it's not like we had any significant radio play or a huge video or anything like that. It was strictly developed through live performances.
Yeah, and speaking of live performances, I mean, you all are constantly on tour. I mean, I read somewhere that you guys do as many as 200 live shows a year.
Yeah, some years, yeah. Not this year. It really depends what we're doing. A lot of times if a record comes out, then we'll tour extensively for that following year.
What are your touring plans for the rest of this year? I know this tour goes for about, I think, 2 more weeks, like as of right now. Anyway, I saw on the website about 2 more weeks.
Yeah, just shy of 2 weeks, yeah.
Are you going to take a little break and maybe start recording the new album after that?
Well, we started recording before we left. Okay. And we got some basics down, and we have 12 songs, but there's a lot of work we still have yet to be done. And so as soon as we're done with this, we're going to keep doing with that and, see how Tim is and take it from there. And that's pretty much it.
And you mentioned Tim, but a lot of people out there don't know what happened. Tim has broken his wrist. Was that right? Is that correct?
Yeah, he fractured a bone in his wrist about a week before the tour. And we canceled the tour for about 48 hours, but then our tour manager and manager said, well, what if I play guitar so we can make the shows happen? And we were kind of reluctant at first. And so we said, well, let's do the first couple shows, and if it's BS, we'll can it. Right. But we've known Jack he's been with us since 95, so he knows the material. He's been playing guitar for many, many years, and it was nice to have an in-house family solution. You know, you didn't have to go hire some fool from, Guitar Institute of Technology, to fill in. And we just wanted to make this tour happen because it just goes to show how much the tour rides on everybody cooperating and, circumstances being favorable, because we had people flying in from California, people flying in from Ireland, Massachusetts, all over the world, and, all these shows. Right. And because of that one thing, it could have gone down the tubes, but fortunately Jack, stepped up and, has made it happen for everybody.
Another thing I want to talk to you about is all your albums seem to be completely different. I mean, every album is a complete departure from the last, and especially Elephant Riders was almost sort of a folksy Americana feel to it, but it was still definitely Clutch. When you're writing an album, does everybody get together and say, we want to do something completely different this time, let's go in this direction, or is it just sort of a natural progression where you all decide, we're just flowing here, let's go there?
I think it's a natural progression. I don't think we ever sat down and talked about that, other than maybe what we didn't like about the last record from a production value. Like, well, maybe I was never happy with the vocal, takes or what have you. Right. And it's just sort of a snapshot where the band is at that particular time. So, because sort of like any band has a collective personality. All those individuals make up, hopefully, a greater thing. And like the record we're doing now, I don't think anyone has any real idea of what it'll be, but we know when all is said and done, it'll be different than Pure Rock Fury.
That's what was my next question was, what exactly can we expect from the next album? Are you going back to maybe some earlier things, or are you treading completely new ground here?
Well, one of the things that we were it's always hard to say when you're right in the middle of it, but we've recorded 11 songs, and I know what we don't want to do is have just a list of songs. One of the things that bugs me about Pure Rock Fury is it's just song, and there's not. Instead of like having some kind of interludes in between songs. You know, every song fades out or stops, the next one begins. And our self-titled record, there was sort of moments in between those that kind of
like Big News 1 and 2.
Yeah. And it was something that we tried to do with Pure Rock Fury, but we ran out of time and money. And since JP and Dan have kind of built a studio at his house, so we kind of have the luxury now to do that again. Mm-hmm. And now that we've written just straight up rock and roll songs, 2.5 to 4 minutes long, I think we're now going to concentrate on some more kind of esoteric things to flesh it out and make the whole thing flow.
Are you going to be going the major label route with this one, or are you going to try to do this one on your own?
It all depends. We'll finish the record, and if people hear it and they're interested in it, and they come to the table with an interesting offer, we'll talk to them. Mm-hmm. If nobody does, we'll put it out ourselves. I guess it's in a lot of ways it's like being a free agent. And
right.
Yeah, all the times we've been dropped by a record label has been a godsend, because we've used the record label to just increase our fan base, and then we turn around and then we sell our own records.
Are we going to get to hear any of those new songs tonight?
There's one new song that we'll play, and one newish song that's on there, Sea of Destruction.
Okay, right.
We have a new record for sale tonight that we're selling only at shows and on the internet. It's called Slow Hold to China.
That was the original title for Pure Rock Fury, right?
Yeah, that's correct. But that song, Slow Hold to China, didn't make it on Pure Rock Fury, so we changed the title. So this record, Slow Hold, is a collection of like B-sides and some demo stuff. Some of it's been available on the internet, some of it is not. It's just sort of a better quality, recording, but it's only available at shows and online.
Okay. And I've always felt that your lyrics have been some of the most original and a lot of times humorous in rock music. Where is it that you find your inspiration from? I mean, they're also out there sometimes, but it's very much human, Where do you find your inspiration?
I try to be a good listener and eavesdrop. I mean, I think, if I read something or hear something on TV and I look at it and I know the rhythm of the words is interesting of itself, or it conjures up a good image, and I'll try to force it into a verse and see if it works, and then I'll build from there. Most songs just start with one line, and if that one line sounds so good, then I'll try to build on that and make that the song. I don't ever really go into this song saying, well, this music makes me sad. Right. I'm going to write a sad song. I'd rather write something that, if you look at it on a piece of paper, it might be able to stand on its own without the music. Mm-hmm. And use words or images that one wouldn't expect in a rock and roll song. I mean, I occasionally listen to rock radio, and a lot of it's just kind of like rehashing the same themes of love lost, love found, I'm angry, I'm sad. And the emotions, those are human things, and I think there's a definite need for that kind of music. Right. But for me, I don't want to paint myself into a corner where, like, I'm having a bad day, I write an angry song, but next week I'm in a great mood. So when I sing the song, it's like I'm just going through the motions. I'd rather just tell a story, and a good story will be able to stand on its own forever. Even if it's a little vague, that just gives the listener more input into it, that makes them wonder what it may or may not be about. Yeah.
And for shows like Rob's MetalWorks, video is definitely still important to us. Mm-hmm. I know Clutch has never really needed to rely on video so much because you have your hardcore fans who are going to buy the albums every time out and going to come see you every time out. Mm-hmm. But do you still think that it's important to have videos, and do you plan on making any in the future?
Yeah, I think videos are a good outlet. I think there's definitely people out there who, well, look at it this way. Most kids, your average, 16-year-old has not known life without MTV.
Right.
I remember when MTV came on, and for me, and maybe I'm just being a bit of, conservative and a purist, the only thing that a rock and roll band should be about is a live show. Mm-hmm. Records, that's a new thing. Even though they're 60 or 70 years old, that's not as old as live music, because live music is as old as humanity itself. And all the technological aspects are, I'm not dogging them, but I try to focus on what really matters. videos are expensive.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to, decide where we want our money to go. There are a couple things in the works. We got a fellow who's working on a video for Space Grass that may be coming out. I don't know when. He's doing it on his own free time, but it's a no joke video. It's the guy Greg Haxon who produced the Blair Witch, and he's doing a whole CGI thing, and he just did it for a labor of love, and to me that's the height of flattery.
Absolutely.
But doing a video, it's kind of tricky for us because we hate having to do stuff, like, all right, this, make a crazy face, or this is the part where you're running down the street, or you can't get this band to do that because it's just not our bag.
Right.
You might be able to film us on stage and then have actors do something. But yeah, I'd like to do one. I mean, our last pro production video was in 1993.
The Shogun named Marcus? Yeah.
And that was 10 years ago. And I think labels, the word is out that we're difficult to work with in that respect. And we're not gonna change the clothes that we have on our backs to look nice. And we hate getting powdered. Yeah. But, we did that once where they tried to get us powdered up for some TV show, and we refused to do it. And then I saw it later on that day, and we definitely should have put some powder on this forehead. It looked like a bowling ball. But, I'll just see. Hopefully the opportunity will present itself.
Well, any last words for the people out there in San Antonio as we wrap this interview up?
Well, if you want to know more about the band, you can check out prorock.com. That's PRO-ROCK.com. And leave a smart-ass message on the message board. And if you're interested in getting not all, but some of our records, they're available on merch.com. And hopefully, we'll be back around Texas and hit, San Antonio next time.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
All right, well, San Antonio, this is Neil Fallon. We're here with Clutch. And remember, Clutch rocks right here on Rob's MetalWorks.